Okay, hello everyone. I just wanted to give you a quick update as to where we stand right now. Just want to let everyone know that this Friday at sundown, that's Friday, September the 18th, that will be the beginning of the 7th month in the Hebrew year. And that is the Day of Trumpets, folks. That's the beginning of the fall feast of the Lord, of the fall holy days, as given to Moses on Mount Sinai. And as we've talked about before, God's holy days are both a memorial and a foreshadowing, a memorial of things past and a foreshadowing of things in the future. Now, what the Day of Trumpets memorializes is that great day when God made an actual physical appearance on the top of Mount Sinai. The invisible trumpets sounded and were so loud it was actually blowing the hair back and the clothing back of the people, and people gathered, all 2 million of them gathered around the foot of the mountain, and God spoke down the first 10 commandments of the Torah to the people of Israel. And he then later called, of course, Moses up into the fire. They saw Moses actually ascend up Mount Sinai and into the fire and stand with God. And after that, Moses needed no more credentials. He was going to be the spokesman for Israel and the liaison between Israel and God. And God made it a covenant with Israel at that time that if they would follow his commandments, that they would be his chosen people and a priestly nation to all the world from then on. He also told Moses that these holy days and these special days that he was giving them, feast days, were to be observed forever by Israel, and that forever he would recognize Israel by their keeping of these holy days. They are a blessed people, we are a chosen people, and that's a very good thing. Now, prior to the 1st century, the Day of Trumpets also was foreshadowing the coming of Messiah. However, now Messiah has already come, so the Day of Trumpets is actually triple fulfillment. Prior to the 1st century, this Day of Trumpets was not only a memorial of that great day on Mount Sinai, but also was a double foreshadowing. It foreshadowed the coming of Messiah, and it also foreshadowed the ultimate return of Messiah in the far future. But in our current time, this is now a double memorial. We memorialize that great day on Mount Sinai, and we also memorialize the coming of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, in the 1st century. And by the way, just for the record, Jesus was not born on December 25th. He was born in the fall, in the 7th month of the Hebrew year, and that is fully documented in the Bible. And it's a little bit of a deep study, but I can assure you that the Bible makes very, very clear when John the Baptist was born, and makes clear that Jesus was born 6 months later, and it puts Jesus having been born in the fall. And now the Day of Trumpets is a single foreshadowing. It's a double memorial, but a single foreshadowing of the future return of Messiah at the end days, at the end of the age. What we have discussed before in prior conversations is that the original event of the sounding of the trumpets on Mount Sinai actually occurred in the 3rd month, as is documented in the Bible. But God told Moses specifically to celebrate this particular day in the 7th month. And that is because he knew somehow that in the future, when he would manifest as the physical Messiah and walk among us as a mortal man, he would be born in the 7th month, not in the 3rd month. And he also knew that in the far future, when Messiah returns, that it would also be in the 7th month, not the 3rd month. So now we have a double memorial, one of the Sinai trumpets and God speaking down the Ten Commandments. 2, of Messiah's, the month of his birth, heralding the month of Messiah's birth. The 7th month, which is a high Sabbath now. The Day of Trumpets is a high Sabbath. Sabbath simply means 7th. And it's the 7th month. It's the first day of the 7th month. And so it is a high 7th or a high Sabbath. Now, 10 days later, in the 7th month, we have Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, or at one-ment with God. I think what the Jews do is they use it as a day of fasting. And I think Christians could do well by doing the same thing. So it's a day to reflect on our character and our relationship with God, perhaps deny our flesh a little bit, and celebrate the Day of Atonement in whatever way a Christian might want to do so. It is also the day that Christ was transfigured. So if you need a matrix or just a small Christian connotation or overlay to the Day of Atonement, just always remember that it's the day that Christ was transfigured on the Mount of Transfiguration. And that event is recorded in detail in the Bible if you would like to read about it. Now, 5 days later, or 5 days after the Day of Atonement, is the 15th day of the 7th month, and that begins the Festival of Tabernacles. And that is the actual birth of the Messiah in symbol. It symbolizes the actual birth of Messiah, as it also symbolizes the ultimate return. Now, the Day of Trumpets is the heralding of the month of Christ's birth and the month of his return in the future. But the actual birth was on the 15th, the beginning of the Festival of Tabernacles, or the Feast of Tabernacles, and so will his actual final fulfilling return when he returns and then doesn't go away anymore, at least for 1,000 years. That will also occur on the 15th day of the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar. In Hebrew, it is also called Sukkot, and Sukkot is just plural for tent or tabernacle. A tent in Hebrew is a sukkah, and so Sukkot, the plural, just means tabernacles or tents. So it's a festival of tents. It actually lasts 7 days. And then on the 8th day, that first day after the end of the Festival of Tabernacles, is the 8th day, and that is called the last great day. And that's the final day of the fall holy days of God. And folks, these are the most holy Christian days of the year, along with the spring feasts, the Passover, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and as we've talked about those before. We have very holy days in the spring, and we have very holy days in the fall, and they're about to begin on Friday at sundown. And now that's going to vary from year to year because the Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar are not locked in. So, but almost every year it's going to be in the month of September. Now, whoever named the month of September knew the ways of God and knew that that month is actually the 7th month of the year, not the 9th month of the year, because Sept actually means 7, just as Oct actually means 8th month, not the 10th month. And then November, that's the 9th month, not the 11th month. And December, as everybody knows, Dec, just like decimal point, Dec is the 10th month, not the 12th month. So whoever named the months was well locked into the Hebrew calendar. They knew pretty much what those months really were. But now with the Gregorian calendar, they are now like the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th month, when in fact you're talking about, via God's way of reckoning, the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th month. And then there are still 2 months left before the end of the Hebrew year. Okay, so the last great day will always be on the 22nd day of the 7th month of the Hebrew year. The Festival of Tabernacles will always begin on the 15th day of the 7th month. And of course, the first day will always be the Day of Trumpets, and the 10th day will always be the Day of Atonement. This pattern holds every year. So all you have to do is lock into the Hebrew calendar, and then the pattern is the same every year. The first of the month is the Day of Trumpets. The 10th of the month is the Day of Atonement. The 15th begins the Festival of Tabernacles, which lasts 7 days, and then the following day, the 8th day there, on the 22nd day of the month, is the last great day, which concludes the fall holy days of Yahovah, or Jehovah as it's pronounced in the West sometimes. So the Day of Trumpets begins this year by the Gregorian calendar at sundown of September the 18th, and the holy days then will end on October the 10th at sundown this year only, because like I say, it floats. It'll be different next year, but almost always the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar occurs in September of the Gregorian calendar. So anyway, on September the 18th at sundown, have your ram's horns, your shofar, your bull's horns, or your metal horns, or whatever type of instrument you want to use. Have them ready. And when the sun goes down and you see that first sliver of a new moon, which always heralds the first of a Hebrew month, every new moon, folks, every time you see the sliver of a new moon, you know that a new month has begun on the Hebrew calendar. And so on the 18th, on Friday, after sundown, when you see that new moon, it's time to blow the horns. And the way they did it, and still do, in Jerusalem, in Israel, in the land of Israel, is that the designated priest on Mount Moriah, and as soon as he sees the sliver of the new moon, he blows his shofar. And they do that every month, by the way. They herald every single month with the blowing of a trumpet or a blowing of a shofar from the top of Moriah. But in the 7th month, after that designated priest sees the sliver of the new moon and blows his shofar, then everyone in the land of Israel starts blowing their trumpets, and they blow those trumpets and make a great and loud, joyful noise to God in memorial of that first time that the trumpets were blown from Mount Sinai, in memorial of the heralding of the month of Christ's birth, the birth of Messiah, and what will in the future be the heralding of the month of Christ's return. And they blow those horns until they're just tired of blowing them. And when the horns and the noise and all the trumpets finally taper off, then that's when the celebration begins. And it's like any other holy day or feast day of God. It's a feast. It's to be joyful. It's to be robust. You have music, you have dancing, you have food, you have fun, you have family, you have friends. Folks, it's a celebration, and we are supposed to be celebrating these holy days even today, whether we're Israel or not. And we know from our many discussions here with Worldwide Israel United that the vast majority of the population of North America, Great Britain, and Northern Israel, not to mention the modern land of Israel, where the Jews and the Jews all over the world, we are all Israelites. And so we are Israel, and we should be keeping these holy days, and thereby God would recognize us as Israel and begin to bless us in ways we can't even comprehend. But even as Christians, we should be doing it, because these are Christian holy days, my friends. The Jews do keep the Day of Trumpets, and it's kind of strange, it seems to me, because they keep the Day of Trumpets as a memorial of that great day. Someday, when the Messiah will finally decide to arrive, here we are, good gosh, 3,500 years after this Day of Trumpets was given, and the Orthodox Jews are still looking for the first coming of Messiah. So I tend to say to my Jewish brothers, look, it's been too long. You need to reevaluate and realize that Messiah actually did arrive in the first century, And now we are coming toward the end of the age. Everything that is happening around us, current events, indicates what exactly the Bible said would be the signs of the end of the age, meaning things are moving faster and faster, the world is shrinking, people are traveling to and fro. There's a great falling away called an apostasy, meaning more and more people are turning away from God and going their own way, becoming secular, some other new age religion. So we know that we're coming very near to the end of the age, because we're seeing everything that's described in the Bible as being the signs of the end of the age. So make a great and joyful noise on Friday evening at sunset when you see the new moon up in the sky. Blow your horns, beat your drums, shout and sing for joy, and then celebrate if you can. Now, right now, people can't even go to church because of this pandemic that we're having, so do what you can. I just wanted everyone to be aware that we are coming up on the holiest time of year in the fall for all Christians and all Israelites all over the world. Now, by the way, the month of the seventh month of the Hebrew calendar is actually known in the Jewish world as Tishri, and I think that's fine. We can call it Tishri, Tishri the first. Enjoy the Day of Trumpets, observe the Day of Atonement, very, very much enjoy the Festival of Tabernacles. Now, what was recommended and done, and still done, throughout Israel is to go out and strike a tent somewhere, just like Jesus, or the Almighty God, Yahweh, struck a tent of human flesh that we now know, flesh and blood, that we now know as Jesus the Christ. And he dwelt among us for a time. So in symbol of that, Israelites and Jews everywhere should go out somewhere and strike a tent, somewhere outside of their own comfortable house. And the way it's done a lot in Israel now, there's a lot of flat-roofed houses in Israel. A lot of times they will go up and build a little pavilion on their roof and stay there for a week. Some will go out of their house and out into the country and camp out in a tent for a week. And then some people just put a big parachute or pavilion type structure in their main living room of their house and leave it up for a week, and that's their sukkah. So there's various ways of doing it. There's no specific way to celebrate Sukkot, folks, but do celebrate, do observe it, be at least conscious of it, and know that this is the time when Jesus was actually born, not December the 25th. And this is the time that Jesus will actually return. Those things are worth celebrating, my friends. So do something fun and enjoy your celebrations and enjoy these holy days. But most of all, just be aware that these are the holy days, and that we as Christians and we as Israelites should most definitely be celebrating and observing these holy days in the spring, which we went over with you back in the spring around the time of Passover, and also in the fall. And these are our true God-given holy days, not the whole holidays or holy days that we make up as we go. And we observe those very religiously in this country, but we totally ignore, other than the Jews, God bless them, we tend as Christians to totally ignore the holy days or holidays that God gave us. So don't do that, folks. Let's be mindful of where we are and where we stand, and how fortunate we are, and let us celebrate and feast and have great festivity during Sukkot. Let's observe the Day of Atonement, and especially on the Day of Trumpets, a high Sabbath, the beginning of the seventh month of the Hebrew year, the month that Jesus will return, the month that Jesus came and was born before. Blow your trumpets and celebrate. And you can probably go online if you just have no way to celebrate on your own. you can probably go online and find some Messianic Jews or Judeo-Christians or even just some Orthodox Jews. They pretty much do the Day of Trumpets the same way as anybody would, and you know, join in a celebration vicariously online perhaps. But it's much better just to do it in person and do it on your own. So anyway, that's our little video for this part of the month. I don't know that we're going to be doing the Watchman's Guide monthly now. You know, when I was one of my great mentors that I love dearly, who has passed on now, when I first sort of joined his church, one of the things that you got for joining was, they said, join the church, you'll get our free magazine and our free newsletter. And I thought, well, that's very cool. I can get a magazine every month and a newsletter every month. Not that that's why I'm joining, but that's kind of a nice little gift. Well, I did join, of course, but I found out they sent me a magazine, and it was just one magazine. It only came once. And then the newsletter, the notes, doc notes they called them, only came about once every 3 or 4 months. So you don't necessarily have to do a newsletter every single month. And these are expensive, and I'm not sure anybody's even watching or reading them anyway. So I probably won't be doing them every month, but from time to time we will send out a video and an email and just kind of keep you updated and posted on what's going on with worldwide Israel. And of course, I will always alert people to the holy days of God, because I believe in them. I believe that they're very important, and I love observing them myself. So hopefully you will catch that pattern and catch that wave and do the same. Thank you, folks, for watching. God bless all the watchmen and all they watch, and we will see you guys next time.